Yo, what's going on guys, it's Bertrude, welcome back to the channel. Today we're using a brand new build and it's all about using the healing incantations for health regeneration and to keep us alive. There's quite a bit to go through on this one, so bear with me through the intro, but this one's called the Holy Healer. Let's get into it. So let's take a look at our stats. We're a low level build, being at level 30. Then we've got 25 vigour. We don't need any strength or dex on the build, so we've just got starting stats in those areas. And all of our spare points have gone into faith, being at 28. In our flask, we're getting the 10 extra faith to take our faith to 38, so we can use all of our incantations. And then we're using the Crimson Burst tier for the health regeneration. Our talismans on the build are quite important. We're using the Blessed Dew talisman also for the health regeneration, so you can pair that with our flask to give us some more health regen. And then we're also using the Old Lord's talismans to extend the time duration of our health regeneration incantations. So what are the incantations we're actually using on the build? Well, first off, after we use our flask, we get the 10 extra faith that we need to use the Blessing of the Erd Tree. This provides us with some more health regeneration, which when paired with our flask and our talisman, adds up to quite a lot of health regen for the invasion. Next up, we can also use the Protection of the Erd Tree, which gives us some elemental damage negation for the 3 minutes that it's active. Then we also have 2 main healing spells on the build, the first one of these being Lord's Heal. This is really good because it refills a big chunk of our health when we need it, but then secondly we also have Urgent Heal. I've got this on the build, if we can't make space to use Lord's Heal, we're in a bit more of a rush, we can use that. It heals less, but it acts faster. Something worth noting on the build is that initially I had quite an even split in my flasks with the Crimson tiers and the Cerulean tiers, but what I found, having access to normal heals, I didn't actually use the healing incantations that I wanted to on the build, which is the whole point of the build in the first place. So I decided to give myself a bit of a challenge and I went with a 2-12 split, giving myself 1 healing flask to use, but after I'd used that, I had to use the healing spells on the build to keep myself alive. Taking a look at our weapons on the build, you can see that we're using the corded sword. We actually have access to 2 if we want to use 2, but most of the time we just stick to 1 with the shield. Then we've also got access to the hammer. This weapon actually deals the most damage out of all of our options on the build, and then the Ashiguar in this one is Prayerful Strike, which just makes sense on any kind of healing build. Then last but not least, we've got the bog standard short spear. The Ashiguar in this is Sacred Blade. This actually does surprisingly good damage, especially after it's been buffed with the Sacred Blade. Then finally, our shield also provides us with a parry option, which is always useful, especially at level 30. And that's everything I wanted to say about the build, guys. Before we get into the invasions, can I just ask, if you like the content and you've not subscribed, maybe consider subscribing. It'll go a long way towards helping the channel and push us towards 800 subs. Anyway guys, that's everything, so you lot sit back and enjoy the video. So the first port of call in every invasion is to activate our buffs. It's a little bit of a faff having to drink our flask and then activate 2 incantations, but it's what the whole build is based around, so taking a little bit of extra time to get everything active is definitely worth it. The holy pots are also quite a big feature of this build. They get me quite a lot of kills throughout the video, and being as at the scale with faith, it's definitely the best throwing option to use. You can see just how useful the holy pots are on this build, having used them in this invasion to secure the kills on both of these players. This is the first time we're seeing the hammer in action in this video. I mentioned earlier that this is the most damaging weapon option that we've got, so it's a good chance to compare it to the damage that we was doing with the sword and the spear in the last invasion. I had a moment where I could have turned there and focused on the host while the summon had backed off, but I knew that the summon was still low health, so there was just no way I was going to let this guy live. There's only one thing to do: find the summon and finish him off. The first time though, using the Lord's Heal incantation, you can see how much of a challenge it is. It's not like using a flask where you can just pop it and it activates pretty quickly. It takes a little bit of time before the healing kicks in, so you've got to buy yourself a bit of space before you can even think about using it. This is a really good invasion down in Siofra, and on this one we're using the sword and the spear. Considering the sword is a mid to late game weapon, it doesn't do that much damage at all at low level. In fact, I even considered switching it out because I'm sure there's a different straight sword I could get more raw damage out of at this level. However, it just suits the build so well. We're a holy build, we're a healing build, and this sword on this character just matches perfectly. So it earns its place and we're keeping it. Looking at our health there, you can see just how effective the health regeneration is on this build. It means in invasions I don't have to panic if I take a little bit of damage, just make myself a bit of space and I know that the health is ticking back up, refilling nicely as we go. So at this point these two have done quite a good bit of damage on me and they're applying a lot of pressure, which means that I don't have the space that I need to use any of my healing incantations. The absolute only option that I can do at this point is use some evasive manoeuvres and run and try and find some PvE that can distract these two and allow me to heal up. Down here in Siofra, there's absolutely no better PvE support than these electric balls. It takes care of the summon for me, which allows me to buy a bit of space and get myself healed up, and then I can go back and focus on the host. This invasion showcases just how good Prayerful Strike is, especially on a hammer. The hyper armor on it is just absolutely insane, and it does really good damage. This is why we have urgent heal on the build. I probably could have got away with not healing there, and the health regen would have took care of that little bit that we needed to heal. But when we've got urgent heal, it happens so quickly. That's what it's for, just topping us up when we need it. You might recognise this duo down in Siofra. This is the same pair who we fought last time we was down here a couple of invasions ago. The only difference is this time we're using the hammer and not the sword and the spear that we used last time. You'll see now how much more damage the hammer does than the sword, as we take care of these two a lot more easily than we did last time. I'll admit that we've had a bit of PvE support in this invasion, and the horse was occupied while I was dealing with the summon there, but still, I feel much more confident using the hammer on this build when I have to fight more than one person. It just does a bit more damage, especially with the Prayerful Strike. Like I say, it just gives me that bit more of an edge when it comes to fighting multiple people. This is a really hard fought invasion against this duo. They're both using katana setups, so I've really got to watch my spacing and respect the damage that these two can do against me. Double parries are always super satisfying. Unfortunately I couldn't follow it up with any kills, but still the invasion goes on. Unfortunately, these two just proved to be a little bit too much for me, but besides the teabagging at the end there, that was a really fun invasion. I come across this trio in Stormvale Castle, so I've got to be really careful because I know I can get blended super easy. But just keep your eyes on the guy on the right behind the wall. And I've no idea how it happened, but it was a trio, and just like that, we're now down to a duo. Really nice backstab from the horse there, you've got to respect that. I'm using the throwing pot and he's used his brains and got behind me for the critical attack. Unfortunately for the horse there, he was just slightly too predictable, rolling in and going for the attack. He left himself open for an easy parry, but he gave a good account of himself and that was a fun invasion. GG's. The summon in this invasion was being really defensive with that great shield and I was finding it hard to find openings to do any decent damage to him. So I knew that in this invasion I just had to be super patient, pick away at the summon whenever I could, and eventually I'd find a window to take him out. I just want to mention that when it comes to greater shields, personally I never get annoyed when I'm fighting against people who are using them. I think having greater shields in the game is really pretty cool and I think that playstyle is quite viable, and it's a playstyle that I have actually used myself on a couple of occasions. I've got a few builds that incorporate greater shields, however I tend to use them more offensively, but it's still part of the game and like I say, I don't get annoyed when I'm fighting people who are playing this way. It definitely made it hard work, but I was finally able to chip away at the summon enough to kill him. Now I can heal myself up and focus on the horse. Great fight guys, I really enjoyed the dynamic of that invasion. I loved how I had to chip away at the summon for so long before I could finally kill him, and then when I got around to finally killing the horse I felt like I'd really earned it. And this is the last invasion of the video guys. I hope you've had a great time watching. I've absolutely loved making and playing with this character. I think the whole feel and vibe of him has made for a real chilled out video and I've really enjoyed it. If you like the content guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. We're getting really close to 800 subs now, which means that we're getting ever closer to 1k, which would just be absolutely insane. Anyway guys, this is the last one like I said, so you lot enjoy the rest of your week. Look after yourselves, look after each other, take it easy, and I'll see you next time.